I'm Marcus Blake with That Nerd Show here at the 2018 Dallas International Film Festival with Brendan, my cohort, as usual. We're speaking with the great John Landis. It's great to have you back here in Dallas, celebrating another one of your fantastic movies. So, are you surprised that we are still talking about Animal House 40 years later?
I'm delighted you're still talking about it. I'm surprised, not so much, because we had not making it, but when we had our first preview, the reaction was so extraordinary. And then watching it open and it was never critically well received, but it was a tremendous hit, and it's very American. It's interesting because to see around the world where it was successful. It was a failure in Japan. It was a huge hit in Germany and France, failure in England, failure in Spain. I mean, really strange. But anyway, it speaks to people, I think, because
I know the setting is, over 50 years ago and everything, but do you feel like, it's still just as important or speaks to, even college kids today?
Obviously it does.
Yeah.
The guys who wrote it, Doug Kenny, Chris Miller, and Harold Ramis, three very smart guys who are all in college. It's based on Chris's fraternity at Dartmouth, but Harold was in college in a fraternity, and Doug was at Harvard in an eating club, which is like a fraternity. So it had very accurate, and when it was shot in 77, came out in 78, it's a period picture. It takes place in 1962, and it's always important to remember that because the period is really the last year of the 50s. Kennedy's still president when the movie's being made. So that distance allowed us to deal with things like race and sex and all kinds of stuff in a way that if it was a contemporary picture, we'd never do.
Right.
Because it's about the period. It's funny, when I saw Get Out, I thought it's the opposite of, when the Deltas walk in the Roadhouse and Tommy Hulse says, in Boone, we're the only white people here. I felt like when I saw Get Out, it's the same thing. It's like, I'm the only black guy here, It was, that, by the way, is a great movie.
Absolutely. I've heard this story that...
See that shirt? That collared shirt? My wife, who was the costume designer, Deborah Naduelman, then, before we were married, on this picture, she had those iron-on letters, and she took this sweatshirt, and then she held it up, and it said, college. She said, do you think this is funny? I said, yes, I do. And I said, John's wearing that. And they still sell them.
Yes,
and a bottle of Jack later, it was
made the same way. So.
Really?
Wow.
There you go.
And a bottle of Jack later, it was history.
I've heard that the scene in the cafeteria wasn't even really in the script. You guys just put the camera on John Belushi.
You mean eating at the thing? No, that's not in the script.
Okay. Wanted to clarify.
The food fight was in the script.
Oh, okay.
And I'm always fascinated that and the zit thing was in the script.
Right.
But I'm always fascinated by people who talk about the food fight a lot. They write about the food fight. If you see the movie, it's one shot.
Right.
It's a master. John yells food fight. Food goes in the air, cut. And I always think it's one shot.
Now, one last question. Since Bruce is here and we talked about...
Where is he?
Right over there.
Over the mic himself.
We talked about
Turn around.
That's a pro right there.
I've lived in Hollywood a long time. Startled.
we talked about how much we love where at the end of the film that you talk about what happened to him in the future. But D-Day is
Oh yeah. You know why that is? I think people forget that was satirizing the end of American Graffiti.
right.
Which also takes place the same year and is a great film.
Do you have a personal theory on what happened to D-Day?
Did you see the 25th, for the 25th year of Animal House, when it came out on a Blu-ray, I shot it. Almost the whole original cast, including Bruce. It's a faux documentary on where those characters are now. So if you want to find out what happened, I'm afraid you'll have to go give Universal some money.
There you go. John, thank you for interviewing with us again.
Thank you.
I'm Marcus Blake with That Nerd Show. We're here at the 2018 Dallas International Film Festival alongside my cohort, Brendan Smith, and we are speaking with Bruce McGill from Animal House. Now, 40 years later, are you surprised that we are still talking about this film?
I would, a little bit, yeah. Although we knew it was special, even before it came out, we knew it was really funny. And if you were paying attention to the landscape at that time, it was very unusual sort of film for a major studio to be making. In fact, they made it kicking and screaming. They didn't want to make it Universal. That was the land of narrow black ties, the Black Tower, and cop shows and cowboys, you know.
I've heard the marketing budget, they spent more on the marketing budget than they did in the entire film.
They probably did, and they were right to, but by then they knew what they had. I think this is right. There were the two major offerings from Universal that year were The Wiz and Jaws 2. That's what they thought was going to make the big bucks. Then the distributors, who happened mostly to be college-educated gentlemen from the South, and they came and they didn't really care about The Wiz. They really didn't care about Jaws 2, but they went crazy for Animal House. And it was after that meeting with the distributors, because that's who you're dealing, that's who you're selling to. Then that's when the budget went and they sold it. And the thing that nobody had ever seen before was kids wanted to see that movie like you play a record over and over. They wanted to go every Saturday, and that kind of repeat business was not factored in much yet.
Right.
There hadn't been much like that. I mean, who wants to go see Ben-Hur every Saturday for a while, you know? But that's part of why the surprise with the revenues were that kids were going 10, 11, 12, 15 times.
How did you come to the movie?
I walked over there. I was in New York. I walked. I auditioned and was turned down. It happens. And then I heard this when we were doing the press junket to release it in '78. Everybody got rejected because there's hardly any dialogue for D-Day. And John Landis, the director, I heard this story from him too, was having the actors reading for D-Day read Belushi's part, Bluto.
Right.
And it wasn't working for him, obviously. So he came, I used to do a lot of Shakespeare, and he came to a play right before the studio said, you have to cast this role, we're shooting in a week. And so he said, oh God, okay. Well, he had this list of scratched out actors. And he said, all right, who's the best scratched out actor on that list? Oh, Bruce McGill, I saw him in Shakespeare last night. So I can thank Shakespeare and Henry V for my role partly.
Okay, I think that's a story no one's ever heard about when it comes to Animal House, and probably the most unlikely influence for that movie.
Shakespeare, yeah.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, I did play classical music on my throat.
That's very, very true.
It was Rossini, I believe.
So, now, something I've always been curious about, at the end of the movie, they tell where everybody has gone off in the future, except your character, whereabouts unknown. Do you have a personal theory on what happened to D-Day?
Yes, I do. Because I pitched a sequel. He was he went to South America and was growing flowers, the big flower trade. Flowers. And in fact, there was one version of a sequel that would start with D-Day down in South America growing flowers for the flower trade. And there was some trouble somewhere, and he flew into the rescue on his DC-3. Because he could, of course, I was crossing him up with my MacGyver guy.
Is that how you met MacGyver?
Well, that when I was doing MacGyver, I got to sit in and start and, play like I was flying all kinds of things. And one of them was a DC-3. And the DC-3, it's a very famous looking airplane. Do you know it?
Yes.
Twin engine, big, super short runway requirements. And the one we were shooting in on MacGyver, it was just this big empty cargo bay, and there were flowers stuck in the ribs, because the last thing it had done was to fly a huge load of fresh cut flowers from South America. So, I wasn't far off.
That is
but they are a cool airplane.
They are.
It isn't hard to imagine that your character MacGyver really could have just been D-Day.
Absolutely.
Now, we got that nerd show. We always like to ask a very nerdy question at the end of all our interviews. And this year, if you had some kind of superpower, or maybe some kind of weapon of choice from the nerd universe, it might be lightsaber, Thor's hammer, anything, to fight the forces of evil, what would be your personal choice?
Dissolution of all firearms, electronic and otherwise.
Ah,
I feel
interesting.
like I would have to hit him hard with a stick. superpower to have them sucked up into the magnetic force that is the universe. Nobody has one, and nobody can build one. Every time you put it together, it gets sucked out again. And then it would still be people killing people, but it would be far fewer, and it would be idiots killing little kids.
Right.
So, Second Amendment rights and all, notwithstanding, that's a pretty good superpower. I would like that. I don't think that's very nerdy, actually.
No, maybe, not, maybe not the answer, but
nerdy would be like, what was my tie tack like in The Insider? Didn't wear one.
fair enough.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Can't wait to watch the film again, especially on the big screen.